Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk and my ranking of the Candyman franchise. There are 4 films in this series, and as is customary, I'm going to start with the worst and work my way to the best. So let's crack on.
They say he came back from the dead, his hand replaced by a bloody hook.
And revenge never tasted so sweet.
And when he comes, he'll be the last thing you ever see. Candyman.
Hate generates hate.
Candyman.
Evil breeds evil.
Candyman.
At number 4 is Candyman 3, or Candyman Day of the Dead. So this was a straight-to-video release, straight-to-DVD release. I've never seen a widescreen copy of this film. I don't know if it was ever released in widescreen, but yeah, certainly the DVD I had was, and I say had because there's no way I was keeping hold of that bad boy, I can tell you that much, was 4:3. Which only added to the fact that this thing looked like it was shot for television. In fact, I've seen TV movies that look better than this. The performances are pretty terrible. Donna D'Errico is it, who plays the lead, makes a really poor substitute for Virginia Madsen. This film tries to kind of redo what the first film did. It's a very similar kind of story to it, except somebody forgot to tell the filmmakers that actually what made the first film so special was the social commentary, was the mythology, was the atmosphere, was the fact that it was a gothic horror fairy tale. You know, it's all of that stuff is gone. This literally plays for the bargain bucket slasher franchise crowd, forgetting that that's never what the original film was. This film is an epic failure on every level, and it's one of the worst sequels I've ever seen.
You say his name 5 times, he's supposed to come.
That's how he gets you.
You guys don't really believe that, do you? There's no such thing as a Candyman. What if it's true? What if the Candyman does exist?
The terror in the mirror returns.
And number 3 is Candyman 2, or Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. This suffers primarily because of the reason that I gave for the third film being so crap, which is that the filmmakers came and just decided to treat this like some kind of slasher franchise. They thought, oh, we've got a new horror icon who can probably rival like Michael Myers and Freddy and all them. So let's just do sequelitis. We'll put him in a film where he can slash as many people up as possible and be that slasher icon. Again, it's not what the first film was. So yeah, it fails. It does have some pretty grade A talent involved. Bill Condon directed this, who has made some pretty decent films. We'll avoid speaking about Twilight, but whatever. But this is a guy who kind of knows what he's doing behind the lens of a camera, for the most part. And, you know, the film looks nice in many respects. I think when you compare it to just your bog standard slasher sequel, then it holds up pretty well. But that's not what we're holding it up to. We're holding it up to the film from which it followed. And in that respect, it fails epically once again. Too much interest on being a slasher sequel, not enough interest on being a real gothic horror fairy tale with some great social commentary. There's also some really annoying stuff that kind of is littered throughout that seems to have no bearing on the film, really. Like this annoying DJ at this carnival, this New Orleans kind of festival thing that's going on, and it's just like, well, I think it's the Mardi Gras. Yeah, it is. It's the Mardi Gras, and you've got this guy doing this DJing, and he's talking over, and kind of, I think what he's supposed to be saying is supposed to really fit well with the film and the themes and what's going on. I don't know what those themes are because it's not really explored all that well, and this guy just sounds annoying, and nothing about what he's saying really fits into the rest of what's going on all that well. It just seems like he's there so that they can take his voiceover and put it in the trailer and make the trailer look all dramatic and whatnot. But in the context of the film, pointless, stupid, and annoying.
The urban legend is, if you say his name 5 times while looking in the mirror, he appears in the reflection and it kills you.
Who would do that?
Candyman. Candyman.
At number 2, we get a breath of fresh air thanks to the latest sequel. Now, this is produced by Jordan Peele. It is also co-wrote by him, but it's directed by DaCosta, and she also co-wrote the script. So I feel like she deserves a bit more credit, rather than this constantly being referred to as a Jordan Peele film. Now, I've not been the biggest fan of Jordan Peele. I think his writing at times leaves a bit more to be desired. I think some people kind of give a bit too much praise to that side of things where his filmmaking is concerned, where often I find there's a lot of holes in his work. Now, I don't know if it's just that he's teamed up with DaCosta here or what, but yeah, I feel like the things that he's interested in, the way he makes films, for whatever reason, is really well suited to this character, to this franchise. It works. Now, I do think the ending of the film kind of becomes a little bit of a rush job, where this character and his motivations are revealed, and they're revealed in such a way where you kind of like, what, hang on, wait a minute, that kind of came out of the blue, what's going on here? But other than that, everything up to those final moments, awesome. Really great stuff. We bring back the social commentary, we bring back the mythology, we bring back the whole kind of themes about the power of storytelling, the power of myth, and how it grows within a community, and how a community can latch on to that myth and give it power. All that stuff was there in the first film, as was the commentary on racial prejudice and segregation. And even to some extent police brutality, which I know some people are complaining about having that in this film. They bring out the old, it's woke. Well, no, it's not woke, because this is exactly the kind of stuff that the original film dealt with. So if this is woke, the original film is woke. I get it. There's a lot of films out there that do carry that kind of label, where you feel like the studio has had a mandate to put all this stuff in because they have an agenda. Whereas with Candyman, I feel like it's the one franchise, or one of the few franchises, where it actually calls for that. It's begging for that. You should be doing that. So in that regard, I feel like Jordan Peele is well suited to it. There's some humour here as well. And if you're going to be a disgruntled white guy, then probably not the kind of humour for you. But I do find it quite amusing. Like, there's some visual gags where, we see, certainly if you look at the trailer at any rate, where this character is telling his girlfriend, these are both black characters, he's telling his girlfriend about the Candyman myth and how you have to say his name 5 times in a mirror, to which she responds, who would do that? And then we cut from there to 5 white girls all stood next to a mirror saying Candyman, Candyman, Candyman. It's that's quite amusing. It's quite funny. It's a bit of a dig there. I feel like Jordan Peele can be a little bit guilty of too much of that sometimes in his work. But again, like I say, I feel like this franchise in particular calls for it in many ways. I do think that DaCosta has a real fine handling of the tension, of how she builds the tension. That bathroom sequence, actually, where those 5 girls are saying Candyman's name into the mirror, is really well handled. The tension of it, she shows you just enough to make you worried, to make you kind of on the edge of your seat, but not so much that it just becomes typical schlock slasher horror. I like the score in this film. I think there's really great work here. It's not quite on the level of Philip Glass, who scored the original film, but some of his cues are certainly taken and reworked into this. So I appreciate that. I always think that when you have a score, when you have a piece of music that you recognise with a particular character, it should be carried throughout the movies. And so, yeah, I'm glad they do that here. I'm glad they bring some of Glass's score back, because as soon as I hear it, I think, yeah, that's Candyman. Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who plays the central role of this struggling artist who kind of latches on to the Candyman story, and that awakens something within him. I really like him in this. I like his descent into madness. I kind of root for him to kind of break free from that. I think, yeah, the dynamic they've got there, the relationship between him and his girlfriend, feels somewhat reminiscent of some of the stuff from the original film, but in the right way, the right kind of way. Only, obviously, in the original film, it wasn't Virginia Madsen and this girl, they weren't in a relationship, they were just good friends. But I like that some of that dynamic is translated here between this couple. I like their story. I like seeing them together. And yeah, seeing where that goes. Again, like I say, really good work with tension, great work with character building, and just bringing you back into this world that was so well executed back in 1992. Which brings me to my number one, which obviously doesn't take a genius to realise it is that original Candyman film.
An entire community starts attributing the daily horrors of their lives to a mythical figure.
The legend first appeared in 1890.
Helen, a woman died in there. Leave it.
Everyone knows he isn't real.
That's modern oral folklore.
Except Helen Lyle.
Bernadette, it ain't safe around here.
Come with me. What's behind the mirror?
Now, a lot of people do credit Clive Barker for Candyman. I think perhaps Barker gets a bit too much credit. I know he wrote the short story on which this film was based, but it was really Bernard Rose who steered the ship. It was really him who adapted that story into something that, well, for my money, became a classic of horror. Now, I personally think the first Candyman, for the longest time, was underrated. I think it's getting a lot more appreciation now. I think the appreciation for it is really growing. A lot of people are kind of latching onto it and saying, actually, you know what? This really is much better than perhaps we gave it credit for. And I think it had the misfortune of being released in, just that horrible period in the early 90s when horror movies had kind of just sunk to all-time lows, and there wasn't really anything good coming out. And I think perhaps because of that, people just kind of wrote this off. But now when you look at it, it's really great. Fantastic music. Bernard Rose doing an excellent job directing. Really, really does a fantastic job of creating this world, of building the tension, of making it dirty and grimy and just icky. You know, the places where Helen Lyle goes as she's working on this story about Candyman, trying to find out all the facts and stuff. The places she goes, just they look like cesspools. Just that alone is enough to give you the creeps. But yeah, when Candyman finally is unleashed, great job. Real great job. Tony Todd, fantastic. The voice work he does for it, just for the character alone, is just on another level. Really creepy, really deep. Sounds like they've added tons of reverb in the edit, but I don't think they have. It's just that's just Tony Todd's voice. He can do that really growly, kind of otherworldly horror, which he does here. The central character of Helen Lyle, played by Virginia Madsen, for my money, one of the best. I don't know that you can call her a final girl because she doesn't really survive, does she? She kind of does, but not in. Well, if you've not seen it, go and watch it. It's hard to say on that front whether she's a final girl or not, but she's certainly in the final frames. But yeah, for my money, you can keep your Laurie Strodes, you can keep your Nancy's. I was going to call her Heather Langenkamp, but yeah, you can keep your Nancy's. I'm just Virginia Madsen as Helen Lyle in this film all the way. She's got the best character arc, a really incredible journey. It's her story. You know, she disappears down the rabbit hole. She gets massive levels of paranoia because of everything she's seeing. She's treated like she's a psychopath, like she's the one who's behind it all. And yeah, it's just about her coming to terms with what's going on and making a decision about how she's going to face it, and the legacy that she's going to leave behind as a result of that. You know, becoming part of that myth that we talked about, which again, like I said, is what the film is all about: the power of story, the power of myth within a community, and in this case, the power of it to bring communities together, both white and black, by the end of this film. So, yeah, I love Candyman. I think it's great. I think it's a classic. For me, it's a better. I shudder to use the term slasher film because, like I say, I think it's so much more than that. But yeah, if you're looking at, you know, your big three, Freddy, Michael, and Jason, personally, first Candyman is better than any of the films by the big three. I'm sure there'll be people laughing at me at that or calling me a whatever name under the sun, but I just think it's true. I think there's more meat on its bones. I think it's got a lot more to say. I think the atmosphere is much more incredible. And I think the story takes its time to build up these characters and let us go on this ride with them rather than just being about the schlock. So yeah, there you go. Candyman, for me, one of the best slasher films ever made. That's why it's number one on this list. That's my ranking. But what's yours? I want to know. Leave them down below in the comments section. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, cracking.